recording for now?
Yeah, I think we're able to like pause the recording.
Pardon me? And let me welcome you all to the TCF22, which is the 46th conference, which has been sponsored by TCNJ. And this theme is for 22 is disrupting environmental change using technology. So we welcome you all, and we are delighted that Rezwan is here. I'll make a very quick introduction to Rezwan. She is involved, she has started first Gigawatt Down, which is, and she is in the midst of developing an app to support a real world game. It has a playful mindset, but it's a way in which people can address climate issues, and it helps them with problem solving by using this tool that she is a grant for developing. Rezwan, would you like to go ahead and tell us more about your background first and introduce yourself further? I think you're muted. Okay.
Yes.
No. I'm gonna mute myself.
All right, cool. Well, hello everyone. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much. Thanks, Lindsay, for recommending me, and Karen. Okay, so and Callie, hey, how you doing? And Stan, oh my God. Okay, so yes, so I'm Rezwan. Can I just jump to sharing my screen because the intro is all, let's see, let's try this. Check it out. All right. So here you see the human being, that's us on the field of play going, what the heck am I doing? All right, so intro. So this talk is called Metrics and Mindset to Get to Zero Carbon, and we're gonna really focus on the first gigawatt down. So there's a lot of other metrics, but you know, we don't have to go over them all today. Okay, so I am Rezwan. I'm a writer, planner, game designer. I founded Footprint to Wings to solve this problem. I've got a BA in environmental science from Berkeley, master from Cornell in planning. So you'll notice my focus is planning oriented, it's people oriented. It's like, how do people work together? Okay, so Footprint to Wings, it's a 501c3. We're always looking for board members, by the way, so, you know, come and talk to me. Our goal is to turn the race to zero carbon into a national pastime and coach each state to win. So it's very football oriented. Our theory of change, climate crisis isn't a science communication problem, it's a solution negotiation problem. And this makes a huge difference. Oh, also, you know what? I want to give you all a copy of the Pixar pitch. So if you go to the NOAA, if you went to the NOAA, let me see, how do I get back to, oh, how do I get back to commenting? Hello. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing because this is important. Okay, so the Pixar pitch, you should all have a Pixar pitch. They're the best things in the world. It's the way Pixar explains a movie, and it's got 6 parts, you know, in the beginning, like, how's it go? Once upon a time, something was happening. Every day this happened. One day something happened, like the shifter. And because of that, we did this. And because of that, something else happened. And then finally something. So definitely copy this and come up with your own, like, it's a story to anchor everything you're doing. So football isn't so much a game as like a pageant, a national pastime. These things are kind of interchangeable. So, you know, this is part of the playfulness, the storytelling aspect of things. All right, back to the screen. Okay, so, and, you know, we don't have time to go into that. So like, that's on your own. Okay, so that's who we are. And that's our story if you want to get into it. This document, so we're developing an app. So what's interesting is we're using Coda, and Coda has an interesting philosophy. A document itself is a type of technology, and this document is designed to be both able to work with data and information, and as a document, as an app. So we're going to design templates eventually that can be used by anyone. Right now, I'm in the middle of designing it, so it's going to be awkward and rough. My apologies for that, but this is growing and evolving. And the other thing I like about the Coda CODA philosophy is that a document is a place for shared truth. So since this is a collective action problem, we want to share that truth and build that truth together. So it's like kind of developing, you know, and a central repository for knowledge. Okay, so like Karen mentioned, thank you so much. We did just recently get a grant, and we have some collaborators. SGAP Leaders is an organization that gets student leadership activities and develops student leadership. So they have these workshops, and they invite, you know, hundreds of students. And the Catholic University of America is also an awesome organization. We got a grant to put on some workshops that are centered around this first gigawatt down metric. So so the idea is, and so this is really excellent, because this is going to give us the funding to hold a zero carbon coaching clinic with our metric, right? And so the idea behind the coaching clinic is, first of all, solving climate crisis has a lot of different facets and a lot of moving parts, but they all interrelate. And so we're going to put it all in a big room and put everything on the table. Of course, there are going to be multiple tables. And this workshop is in October. So by then we will have worked out all the bugs. But for now, we're you know, like, we have the big view, but, you know, we're going to drill down. And so between now and October, you know, each of these pieces is going to be refined, and then October is going to pull it all together. And of course, the first gigawatt down metric is a big part of it. Let me just walk you through this a little bit. This would be like in a big room, and you would come in, you're the player, everybody, student, citizen, politician, CEO, everybody's a player. And then you get the rules and metrics, and you face the switch. Like, are you ready to go to zero carbon? And if you're not, you check your mindset, because, you know, you have to be ready or you have to know why you're not ready. Now, you can also walk through the field and come back and check your mindset again. So that's okay, because sometimes you need to know more before you're ready to know if you're ready. And we accept that. So, but we want to be upfront with, you know, playing a game. This is, you know, we're taking a gameful approach. The player's mindset is super important. And then you check the emissions, like how far do you have to go to get to zero carbon? So that's the station of emissions. And then you go into the solutions. And so the solutions we divide, there's so many ways to divide things. We divide it energy supply side, demand side, and then the meta plays. So like finance, you know, the bigger issues of society, how we organize ourselves. By the way, if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat, and we'll get to them at the end. Okay. So, okay. And the goal for this talk is, we might come back to this picture. The goal is to introduce this whole framework and the conflicts and gaps, because a lot of people have conflicts and gaps. And so we're going to surface some of those and show we're going to kind of focus mostly on the first gigawatt down metric. All right. So, okay. So the race itself. So how are we organizing this race? Scientists have told us, you know, fossil fuels are super awesome, but we're burning them, and now the emissions are accumulating, and it's causing the planet to heat up, and that is triggering catastrophic global warming. So that's pretty bad. And the only way to stop this is to stop emitting those greenhouse gases. Plus, we have to go beyond and remove some of it, right? So we have to decarbonize the economy. Everybody on the same page with that? Okay. All right. So now, how much time do we have for this? So I love this chart. This is from Glenn Peters. You know, we have to, the sooner we do it, like if we just get to zero right away in 2020, whoops, we're already overdue. That's great. We go straight down. But the longer we take, like if we go right away, this is great. The longer we take, the more we have to remove, you know, we're behind, we're actually in debt, and we have to remove. So the sooner we can do it, the better. So how can we accelerate it? Okay, so our game, basically a very simple game. The first US state, and this is US centric because if we can solve the problem here, we can solve it anywhere, right? Like we're the biggest consumers and emitters on the planet. Well, maybe Kuwait is bigger, I don't know. But the first US state to achieve a zero carbon, net zero carbon economy with the best quality of life wins. That's it, that's the game. Countries can also compete, you know, later, but we're focused on the US. So net zero, like I said, you've also got to offset stuff. And the carbon cup, what do you win? You win a planet, you win the right to brag, you know. And we're also going to get this carbon cup where every state, you know, the chip in order to register yourself to play is a diamond, and it goes onto the carbon cup. This is a diamond, you know, sequestered carbon. Right. Okay. So that's the rules. Everybody ready to play? You can kind of, yay, okay. So now decarbonization, like it takes, you know, there's sort of three main things you have to do. One, on the demand side, you're going to electrify everything and also reduce demand. Okay, simple enough. On the supply side, so you're going to switch to energy that's zero carbon, and you're going to need more of it since you've electrified everything. So you need a big chunk of new, fresh power that's zero carbon. And of course, what you can't do, you remove. And the way you remove it, you can't like play those little shell games they do where you're like, oh, I'll buy a wreck somewhere. You can't do that. You have to actually physically remove. Okay, like, so you have to get another machine that removes carbon from the air, and that's going to take more energy. So that's the thing. So those are the three steps, but it's a little more complicated because there's different types of plays and they all intersect. So you've got your demand side plays where you electrify, you work on efficiency, and you also reduce and repair. Reduce and repair are actually in the jobs and consumption conundrum area, because they are in conflict with our economy, right? You're not supposed to reduce or repair. You're supposed to buy and consume. So that's an interesting meta issue. So, and the meta issues come up, you know, and then the energy supply side, the offset side, there's other meta things. All right. So how we score the race is with emissions, right? Emissions per person in metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. So that's an important metric to keep in mind. Now, some of my challenges, the other thing, the purpose of this talk is I'm looking for people who are great at finding data, using data, and bringing data into this app. So I'm going to also reveal some challenges as we go along with this data. So first, why emissions per person is because if you go total emissions, you know, the worst states are Texas and California. But they just have the highest population. California is actually one of the best in terms of emissions per person. So they're doing a lot. And that's the important thing you want to measure is how well you meet the needs of your citizens with what you're doing. So, and that's how we rank. So guess which state is in the lead? Who wants to guess? Any guesses?
It used to be New York.
It used to be New York. Oh, you know what? That is so important. Any other guess? Okay, we're going with New York. So guess which state is in the lead? Guess what? I only go back from the EIA.gov. I can only go back to 2018. I don't know which state is in the lead today, but as of 2018, which is the data that the Energy Information Agency of America has, it's still New York. This is DC. DC doesn't count. That's a city. So yeah, isn't this cool? By the way, this is what CODA does. You can like go in and zoom in on parts of your graph. Oh, you can also, let me just show you some other fun stuff. This started as a table and then you just switch to, you know, chart view, or you can look at it card view. Hours of fun. Okay, let me just go back to chart view. I'm just scratching the surface on CODA. You can also do like formulas and there's just stuff, but okay. So here, and Wyoming is bringing up the rear. So the great thing about this is you can see that there is a range and you can start wondering why that is. Like some people might have a weather advantage. Some people, you know, they're doing better things. They're doing more things, but this is a good place to start. Now, so this talk was supposed to be about the gigawatts, but we're talking about emissions, and there's a transition, there's a shift we have to make. So the emissions cause the global warming, and so we definitely have to measure them and reduce them, but we cause those emissions indirectly. What we're directly doing and the things that we play and need to switch are our activities, and those are the things like that generate the power. So that's what we need to measure. And so the analogy here is like in football, you get 6 points for the touchdown, but the whole game is surrounded by how many first downs you get, how many yards you get, right? So there's just two different metrics there. Just need to jump back and forth from both of them. All right, so I think that explains that. Where are we? Oh, race mindset. Okay, so that's the race. So like I said, this talk is about metrics, and you need to know metrics in order to understand the game and also to support the players. So right now, let's take a look at the players. It's 11:30. All right. Okay. Oh, also a great book, if you're interested, The Art of Game Design by Jesse Schell. Will give you all kinds of brilliant ideas for just anything. It's one of my favorite books as a coach. Okay, so this game, on a big scale, forget the players right now and forget state to state. Let's really look at what's happening. This is a Team Doom versus Team Earth situation, okay? So the climate crisis, you've got Team Doom dancing in civilization's end zone. Team Earth is playing out the clock. We don't really know what we're doing. We're kind of like, whoa. And there's a reason for this. Okay, so football really explains this. You know, you got your field. It's 100 yards long or whatever. In football, it's 100 yards. But for us, it's energy, it's emissions. Team Earth has to run its carbon emissions down to 0 and sequester in Team Doom's end zone. Team Doom is playing the opposite. There are people digging up oil as fast as they can, burning it, consuming. So, you know, that tension exists. And the really key thing to note is that most of us are playing for both teams. And I think we need to admit that. And the sooner we admit it, the sooner we realize the tensions within ourselves and what we need to resolve. But yeah, so that's going on. All right, but let's get back to the player. Who's the player? So any individual is a player. All of us individuals, each of us have so many things we can do, so many levers we can pull, so many different roles to play. Like we're voters, consumers, employers, employees, children, the CEO, any person in any capacity. That's the core indivisible unit of the team. And then you coordinate to form specialized teams, right? You're not on your own. So now you're the player, all the power comes from the player. So how many people feel they have all the power? You know, do people not feel very powerful? So there's a number of reasons for that. And one of them is there's propaganda telling you don't have power. 2, you don't want the power. You're like, what? No, it's not my responsibility. And 3, there are other people and their power, and they also have power, and their power cancels you out. So it's these other players we have to deal with. And so fundamentally, this is a team sport, right? So, and your effectiveness comes from your power. You have to do something. You have to take your power. Without you doing what you need to do, this game is lost. But also you have to choose a good play. You can't just like randomly like, I have power, I'm gonna go and like, you know, blow something up. It's just like, what does that do? So you got to choose a good play, and then other people, you got to get them on board. You got to work with them. So you need your teamwork. These are 3 essential items. And so all the metrics that we develop need to support the players, the plays, and the teamwork. Okay, so one big purpose of metrics is get everybody on the same page. One big purpose of an app is to get everybody on the same page. It's all about teamwork, right? So, and there's all kinds of resources. Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Such resources. This is the best book ever. I don't know if you've heard of The Optimistic Child by Martin Seligman, but what was very interesting to me is that it said some of the most important things, a kid, like why do they get depressed in the first place, is that you need to develop social skills. And the key social skills are assertiveness and negotiation. Like who knew? And then also problem solving skills. Like if you've got social skills and problem solving skills, you're pretty much, you know, life is going to be a little bit better. And this fits in with our thesis that the climate problem is a solution negotiation, you know, as well. Like this, it's basically, this is what it is. Fierce Conversations, also an awesome book, because what gets talked about, this goes back to the teamwork, you know, there's other players, and so many of us don't want to raise certain subjects with them. And, you know, you've got the corporate nod where you're like, okay, let's not talk about this. So breaking that this is an excellent resource for that. This is a computer conference, so I just wanted to point out, if you haven't heard about it, everyone needs to watch this Tristan Harris talk. So there are many forces at work trying to hack our individuality and set us against each other and polarize each other. So that's like the whole problem with social media. It's both an incredible gift for helping organize and also an incredible gift for helping polarize. And this guy, he explains the vulnerabilities, the best video ever. You should really check it out. And also I'm super inspired by Rutger Bregman's Humankind. And of course, the Tuckman model of teamwork. So it talks about the stages of teamwork, where you go from forming, where you're just like, who are we? What are we trying to do? What? Storming, this is really important. Like, what are we going to do? This is the solution negotiation part comes in the storming. Like, what the heck? And this is where metrics really help. Like, clarify what we're doing, why it matters, you know. And then once you get through that storming, which is an essential stage you cannot skip, then you can start norming, where people get really good at, okay, this is what we're doing. Okay, I got it. And then performing, where you do it. And then if you're successful, you win, you go home, you celebrate, and it's awesome. All right. So that's the resources. And let's see. Okay, so we got these players, and we need people to help the players, because the players are like, what? I don't have time for this. So this is why our organization is focusing on coaching and developing coaches, the materials for the coaches to help the players. We want coaches, you know, this event in October, we're looking for people who want to like go through the, you know, and practice and get good at it, because we want to franchise this. We basically want to, you know, nail this stuff down. Yeah, so coaches, you know, to earn the coaching cap, there's a lot you got to do. It's a privilege. And you really got to pay attention to the players' rights. So this is one thing that we want people to realize. Players have rights, and we got this from a thing on like Little League coaching. So a lot of times coaches don't see the conversation around climate solutions is, and we're going to get into that in a second, the theory of change, is so much of it is a power play and a dominance play. Like, these idiots, they don't get that climate change is real. We need to just, you know, we need to vote them out. We need to this, we need to that, which, you know, may or may not work, but it's taking an approach to the individual who is your fellow player that's kind of that isn't really figuring out what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what they really want, what the problem is with the solution, you know, like that's what we need to be exploring and developing. So you know, and there's also these awesome books for coaches, but let's get back. So coaches, super important. We want more of them. Referees, super important. These guys have to have the metrics down cold. They're really going to help facilitate this process. So we are looking for, and referees help formalize. So everybody who's here that's interested in the metrics can help with that. Experts. Okay, so experts is very interesting. There are experts in this world, and the experts themselves are players who need coaching. They have specialized knowledge, but it's often not communicated in a useful way by the people who need it. And the reason is, there's two main reasons for this. One is that you end up, because we're in a world where it's Team Doom versus Team Earth, we're very misincentivized in this world. It's like the incentive is, how can we make more money? How can we, you know, do this? How can we, like, you're not incentivized to have the most, you know, it's an economic issue. So experts find themselves engineering around the fact, right? So they make light bulbs that expire quickly, you know, or they make, you know, it's a built-in obsolescence. They have PhDs in how to make food addictive, right? Okay, so that's a problem with experts. And then the other one is they underexplain. And this phenomenon is very interesting. They underexplain, right? So when you ask an expert, they say something that what I'm saying is there's information that's kind of held at an area that's out of reach of most people. And we really need to break that. We need to get information that's accessible to everyone, and also get experts talking to each other. So there's a lot of theory behind it, but the point is that whenever you're in a situation where there is an expert, please ask questions and be like, hey, explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Really get them to explain things, because people are under-explaining, and that's a big problem. Oh, and then this is inspirational. Look, this is music. You're you focus. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, experts. So that then the players form specialized teams. That could be your school, city, Team Solar, Team Divestment. You know, all of the actions of specialized teams have to add up. And then of course you got your state team, which as we noted, that's where we were. Great, so that's who. Oh, okay, so quick check-in on feelings. Oh, and I think I need to. So do you feel that we can solve this problem? Do you feel that we can fix climate change in the time that we have and we can get onto an awesome, sustainable world? Like everybody, like if you can do your little hand raise to say yes, or like, okay, one yes, all right. I'm only seeing one yes here. What's going on? What? Come on, people. Okay, so if the answer is no, then that's kind of depressing. So that means, you know, it's time to weep and mourn. And what we have here is the stages of grief, which is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, right? On the other hand, if you're saying yes, then we need to coordinate and build teams, right? So we need to form, storm, norm, perform. And I just want to point out that bargaining here is also the storming phase. So ideally, we would get to the bargaining and then shift to here, and we wouldn't have to go to depression. Although if we fail here, I'm sorry, it's very sad. Okay, all right. So theory of change. Let's go to the theory of change. 45. Okay, we're doing good. All right. So, like I say, our organization says this is not so much a science communication problem, it's a solution negotiation. All right, this is a negotiation. How many people feel they're really good at negotiating? Just out of curiosity. Oh, yes. All right, we got another answer. Okay, so the dominant narrative that I've noticed is kind of revolves around we have the solutions, and it doesn't realize that saying that is kind of a problem. So you've got the climate reality thing. So a lot of people, they say climate change is real. Okay, I totally agree. We have the solutions. Well, okay, we just lack political will, and so vote. So this is kind of the sequence. And meanwhile, the deniers are saying climate change is not real. We don't need solutions, and this is just political vote, right? They're just trying to do something to you. Okay, so there's actually, so the problem here is these are very similar narratives. If you're debating whether or not something is real, then you're debating the science, you're focused on the science, which is important, but it's not where the solutions are. So you're focusing on the science, you're focusing on the symptoms of climate change, and it's science communication. When you say we have or we don't need solutions, you just like, okay, so we don't need to talk about it, right? And so then this greenwashing and dismissal kind of dominate, and the solutions are out of focus. And then, of course, we lack political will. This becomes the conversation. So that's a conversation about dominance, gaining power, demonizing others, and you're focused on power and not on problem solving. That's my big beef with that. And I tell people this, and they're like, no, we do have the solutions. Which is true, but a solution is not a solution until it's on the ground. Like you have to get it on the ground. We have possible solutions. They're not solutions. And this is what the first gigawatt down is about. You have to get it down on the ground. It has to be concrete, right? And your players need to be prepared, and you need to be prepared to realize what's weak in my solutions. I don't know how many people here are familiar with the lean startup method. But lean startup method is you really have to test your assumptions, because you think you have a good idea, but if people aren't buying it, it's a problem. And then the mom test is, we live in a world where everybody, they're like, yeah, I'm totally believe in clean energy, and they're not, but they're not living it. So this dichotomy between saying one thing and doing one thing is really important and let me just jump ahead, because that you say one thing, you do another thing. We have conflicting commitments, and we need to face this. So as a coach, this is the thing, you really need to get people to go, okay, we have conflict. What are they? Like, let's work through them. Don't like dismiss them or avoid talking about them. So, yeah, so this is a great video. Got to check it out. I should put that in the, thing. Okay. So our narrative is no, the solutions, yes, climate change is real, totally, but the real issue is that climate change sucks, the solutions suck, we have to work through all of these solutions. All of this is true, but it just misses the challenge. So I don't know, is that depressing? How do people feel about that? That's so sorry. Okay. Okay. So we want to clear up the confusion, and we want to find solutions that really work for everybody. But we really got to face those metrics. So, okay. So number one, and I just want to keep going back to this, the purpose of metrics. Why do we even have metrics? Why do we need to measure anything? So we need to measure so that we can win. Otherwise, we're just talking. There's a lot of talk. These metrics, they have to be accurate. They have to measure a thing that needs to be measured, because you can measure all kinds of pointless stuff. We just need to focus in on what we need to know when we need to know it. It has to be comprehensible. So let me jump from comprehensible to the law of triviality. Okay. And the very importance of everybody starting to say, explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old, like really hold those experts' feet to the fire. Okay, so the law of triviality is that if you're discussing solving a problem, you're in a committee, you're going to give disproportionate weight to trivial issues, right? So like, say your job is to approve a power plant, how much you're spending, like $10 billion on it. You're going to spend more time on the staff bike shed than you are on the power plant, right? So it's so the idea is that whatever we talk about, we like $1 trillion budgets, this, you just kind of overlook it, but you focus on little things. And one part is because you assume that the people who are working on it understand it, so you don't need to. But I think the real lesson here is that we need to clarify those big complicated things. So metrics are incredibly important, and we really need to nail this. We need to make the big complicated things trivial. Just cut them down to size. It's demystify, maybe not trivial, demystify. I like that, demystify. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, so because right now what we have is interesting. We have Pledge-a-palooza. Everybody's pledging to get to 0. And a lot of scoreboards out there, like, let me score how your state is doing. They score who's pledged. They're scoring pledges. And then the pledges are all given in percents. So these are a couple of my pet peeves. The pledges are in percents. So 100% of what? And sometimes it's not even 100%. Like here's Sustainable Jersey. They had this really interesting pie chart where they're like, oh, the Global Warming Resources Act says we need to get 80%. So goal achieved, this 80% wedge, this 20% wedge, we don't even need to do this. And this is your responsibility as a municipality, and this is somebody else. We don't even know. So first of all, I love this because it's a very illuminating graph. But the other thing, for example, Costa Rica, people are always saying, oh, Costa Rica ran on 100% renewable energy. Well, Costa Rica's electricity is almost 100% renewable, but their electricity is 30% of their total energy. So they got 70% fossils, 30%, okay. But you never say a football player scored 100% of a touchdown for 30 yards. You say he's on the 30-yard line. So this is where the gigawatt down is like a football thing. Is kind of, we really want to start getting that discipline, because otherwise people are just waving things around. Yes, we succeeded. No, we didn't. Where are we? I don't know. I'm lost. There's like players in confusion. Okay. And you see this, like, here's the New Jersey Energy Master Plan. They're like, yes, okay, we got a plan. We're going to get to 0. And here's how we're going to do it. And it's like a percent of what? So they give this to you, and there's nothing in the master plan about the land area needed for each thing. I've gone through, well, there's a thing about the energy, but it refers you to another document, which is a very unclear document, which is, there's issues with that document. But this amazes me. That, like, we don't know, like, what are we doing? It's just like, oh, we have a graph, we're done. The machine went bing. The problem is solved. It's like, this is going to be in somebody's backyard. Whose backyard? We have to negotiate that. That's where the negotiation comes in. Okay. But wait, there's more. Okay, metrics. So first gigawatt down. So the purpose of the first gigawatt down is to really to bring some order to this conversation and to enable like those negotiations with great clarity. Okay, so hopefully, how many people did watch the video already? I was like, nobody's seen the video. How do I explain this? Okay, so in football, how you have a first down, right? You got 100 yards to go, and they measure it like if you have 4 chances to get 10 yards, right? So first down, second down. And once you get it, it's called a first down. So it's confusing because there is a first down of the first down, but you can get a first down in the first down. So, but yeah, so the point is 10 yards, 4 chances, first down. And then the whole field, you would need to go, to 10 times that, but something you can make breakthroughs and go all the way but still just to get a chance. And if you can't do it in those 4 chances, you lose possession. So this is important in terms of solutions. If we're trying to do something and you can't do it with that, then you might want to try a different, you need to pivot. So a lot of people, they're not pivoting, they're not seeing ahead in time, and that's kind of a problem. Okay, so now how do we apply this to the energy field? We don't measure it in yards, we measure it in gigawatts. And we measure it in gigawatt years, not hours. So a lot of people, you'll hear them talking about watt hours. And also the nameplate versus delivered. The gigawatts you need is what people use, not what it takes to give them what they use. So those are the 3 things to keep in mind. Gigawatt is a billion watts. It's the deliverable power capacity of an AP1000 nuclear reactor. And I say that so that we go from the abstract of a gigawatt to a concrete object. So one huge nuclear reactor is a gigawatt year, okay? And then you're like, oh, where are we going to put that? So that makes it visceral. So it's really important to see this not as like some oh yeah, we'll solve it. There's some land somewhere. It's like, oh, where do we put this thing? And also watt hours. Okay, so how old is Timmy? Timmy's 6. 6 what? 6 years. But you wouldn't ask Timmy how old he is in hours, because that's crazy. Nobody would do that because he's 52,000 hours old. And poor Timmy, to count all those hours, it's just much easier. 6 years, we need 20 nuclear reactors, let's just objects, and the smaller the number, the better. So that's why we use years and not hours. And also, every time you see somebody talking in hours, just do a quick division by 8,760, which is 365 times 24, and you will get the years. So this is something I'm doing all the time because people keep going in hours. I don't know why. Okay, so looking back at this field, if nuclear is 16%, we're going to assume that New Jersey is holding on to its 3 reactors. So this means that the field is 18.75 gigawatt years, right? And then that way we know that, if they could tell us how many gigawatts these solar, it's very frustrating. So that would be the first step. What is the total length of your field? Then part of the negotiation is the length can shorten if you get more efficient, or if your calculations were wrong, who's calculating. And let me tell you why. For example, the solutions project says that we need 32.9 gigawatt years. So we have to, is it 18 or is it 32? That's twice as many nuclear reactors. So this is something the experts haven't been forthright about. And there's a lot of wiggle room. So what I really want to do is get some experts in a room and ask them some follow-up questions. But so establishing the length of the field is important. And I just want you to notice here, nameplate capacity is different from N power. This is 130 gigawatts because, for example, solar power plants, they don't work at night. So you're going to need more nameplate than is actually delivered. And then you've got the batteries. That's why the nameplate is always bigger than what's delivered, right? But even if there's this much disagreement on what's delivered, that's a problem. Okay, so, oh yeah, so here also with CODA, we've got the new thing. Okay, hours of fun. Okay, so, and then the other thing about first gigawatt down. So then for solar, the rule of thumb is 1 gigawatt year is 30 square miles of solar farms, right? And that's at the best case now. It's the latest estimate of 12.6 watts per square meter from a study that was done that said if you configure it this way, you're going to get more bang for the buck. But so it's 30 square miles, and then you have to go to your state and say, okay, what 30 square miles are we going to get? That is the game of getting to zero carbon with the energy supply side. You need to get land and secure that land, you know, so you need to know how much land you need and you know, get on with that. So yeah, so how much decarbonized energy does your state need? How many gigawatt years is the length of your field? Okay, what mix of power plant will supply that energy? And then start negotiating who wants that energy in their backyard, you know, and let's go, and then let's get it done. So this conversation is such a clear and conversation, and it's just something that has been avoided. I don't know, you might not notice it, but I've been looking through all these curriculums, all these energy master plans. They focus on, oh, let's electrify vehicles, which is great. But again, that's the demand side. Okay, so that's great. Somebody does need to be working on that and focusing on that. That's their job. That's awesome. So, but if you're not electrifying at the same time and facing this issue of land use, you're kind of avoiding a big part of the challenge. Okay, yeah, so we're working on energy mix shorthand too. This is kind of like the NFL. By the way, how are we doing on time? Oh my gosh. You know what, there's more to come. Like, we're working on other stuff, and I just want to maybe cut it short and have a Q&A. You know, like, energy units are crazy. They're all over the place. So you do have the freedom to design a new unit. If you take a look at all the crazy units they have out there. Yeah, so there's, oh, and then land use. Okay, so I want to, we have a very different conversation going on in this country. There's some people who want to make this return to Eden, like, you know, get the smallest possible footprint. There's some people like, well, know what, you know, we just need to figure out how to create laws so that we can get all that energy on the ground. Like, people are talking about this, but I want people to know what that conversation is really about. So there's something going on here. And what was the other thing the anchoring. Yeah, just the utility. The USA ultimately needs about 1,500 to 2,000 gigawatt years. So this is the Solutions Project estimate, also Saul Griffith had from Rewiring America. So that's the national foot length, and that's a big difference. It's 500 nuclear reactor difference. So it would be nice to nail that number down and then figure out where these things go, or figure out how much you know, land use you need. And the other thing is, you know, people say, well, we could do that all with solar and it doesn't take that much land. So let's go back to land. Do I have the landscape? Yeah, the NIMBY coefficient. Well, basically I did the calculation, and what they're talking about, like 40 million acres, is the area of the state of Georgia. So it's like the whole state of Georgia. So we need to get clear on that. These are the things we need to get clear on, and then we can negotiate. Okay, so let me just wrap up this subject so that we can go to Q&A. And, you know, we want to leverage national pastime technology to clarify the game so that we can really play the game, so that nobody feels betrayed at the end, like, well, you didn't tell me what it would take. And so, what is this thing anyway? Oh yeah. Yeah, so the NFL, like, they just make everything as clear as possible every step of the way. And that's our job as experts, is to really clarify how to get there, and then, you know, get there. All right, so there it is. Big finish, yay, okay. So any questions?
So how then do you get this game to the students? I know that first you're going to develop the game, but this would really, there's so many students that are really into gaming. In fact, I have, they're not just teenagers or 20-year-olds, they're 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds. They're really interested in gaming, and then a lot of people are interested in football. How do you get this to them? Is that that'll be dealt with later, or what? Because I mean, I can see that it would be captivating for kids, and they'd learn so much. It's like doing a Model United Nations. You go off and do something for a couple days or whatever, and play a game in a sense. Tell us all about that if you can.
Yeah. So okay. So there's two things. Like, a game a lot of people, when they think of games, they think of video games, they think of board games, and there's a continuum, right? So this is a real world game with, you know, the points are real. The points are real in the real world. However, I just do want to say there is an excellent game out there. Let's see, Energetic, the board game by the City Atlas. Okay, so, okay, shoot, I should have that somewhere. But so we want people to play games to go through the simulation of getting to zero. As a national pastime, the way the NFL approaches this, like, okay, football, I mean, think about it. Like, you take a ball and you run it down a field. It's kind of silly, right? But they put showmanship into it. So to make it a game, part of it is like really explaining the rules so people understand, well, in my city, and breaking down the different scales of the game so that you can see each part of the game and how it adds up. So you want to see the big scoreboard, but then you can gamify each portion of the game. Like, for example, electric cars, how far and how fast can we go in transforming the electric car thing? What are the blocks there? You know, that sort of thing. But this is a big thing we're experimenting on. So the October session, there's going to be 250 students that we're going to really get a good chance to workshop the stuff and figure out how that works as a game. Yeah, to make that jump. That is a good question. I mean, because it's a real national pastime, and we figure like every year they're going to have the big event, kind of like the Super Bowl, where you look at the scores and you see what people have done and you see who's in the lead. But yeah, there's the ways to break down the game would probably make it more effective. These are good questions. Okay.
Yeah, there's so many good possibilities for getting students engaged. It's just how do you get them? I mean, like the Model United Nations, they get together for whatever it is, 3 days, I think it is, and all the students are totally enraptured with that. It just really sounds like such a powerful tool, and it would be a matter of getting the schools to get involved and underwrite something like this. I know that there are games, for example, on there are apps that are games on cars, racing cars, and on running different competitions by virtually, which coincide with, say, the Indy 500 or whatever. So this would be such an opportunity for students to get knowledgeable. They could have I guess New Jersey, one of the great things that New Jersey has done is that it has the first requirement that there be a climate section, some type of education surrounding climate in K through 12. Now that's I think the first in the country that does that, and this would seem to dovetail so well with something like that.
Totally. And you know what, I've been reviewing their curriculum, and it's first of all, it's more of like they're suggesting there should be a curriculum, but they're still leaving it very open-ended for educators to come up with stuff. It's not like they've come up with the curriculum so much itself. There are parts of it though. And it does seem to be heavy on the science, like climate change is real, and the performance, how do you feel about it? But it does still seem to be light on the solutions. And I think the challenge is, so it's one thing to simulate, you know, like model UN where you decide something, but it's another to actually get something on the ground. So you would need to take ownership, like it's, you know, in your city, what is your city's share of energy use? So how much energy do you need to meet that city, and where are you going to put that? I mean, I guess that doesn't seem that exciting of a game, but like to actually go and secure the land for that is an awkward conversation. Yeah, that's the game. That's unfortunately like so what you need is, and this is why I keep bringing up nuclear. Nuclear can be either the good cop or the bad cop, saying, look, if we can't get this stuff done, you're going to need a reactor, or you're going to need massive lifestyle change. So the things that we have to talk about are these difficult things that people don't want to talk about. So like, that's the question. How do we get that to be the game? And I'm going to put that out to you guys, because it's easy to talk about like, oh, let's So some things are easier, like, okay, how can we, you know, get everybody to get an electric car? But it's harder to say, okay, but what's the optimum amount of electric cars, and how can we make cities more walkable? Right. So that could be like the once the students see the whole array of games, they might think, you know, I don't even want to deal with the energy side, but I'm much more motivated now to really make my part of the city walkable. Let me, you know, and that's fine. But you want to start getting people to understand their role when their part of the game comes up, like that they're ready to take whatever action they need to take in that moment, as well as focusing on their specialty. So part of this is exploration right now, just getting people to figure out what resonates with them as a player, who they are as a coach, how do you coach that? And you know, this is evolving, like we're all in this together. I mean, honestly, how are we going to do this? Like, you know, this is a huge, massive ton of changes that we have to do, and we got to figure out how to make it the most accessible for everyone.
Are there questions in the chat? I don't know.
Yeah, it looked like there's a question from Lindsay. I think they were raising their hand.
Oh yeah, we are looking for college students to help facilitate the October event, and like ideally people who are like drawn to one particular area, they can be the coach for that area on the table, you know, so, you know, like the grid or just whatever it is, agriculture, eating. So there's different things, because we do want to do a fully fielded, like we need like 30 volunteers. So colleges can right now, because the workshop is for high schoolers, and again, that's part of the process. Is if we can explain it to high schoolers, we can explain it to anyone. So actually even better, like younger people. But yeah, so we're definitely looking for people who want to get involved, schools to participate, more students, and also college students to help facilitate and to become proto coaches. And then you're really coaching the high school students to them also become coaches, as well as, because we're all both players and coaches, but some people are just players because like, don't bother me with the rest of the stuff. So that's the distinction. But yes, please contact me.
Rezwan,
Yes.
can you hear me okay? I just wanted to tell you that there's a fantastic way to get high school students by a group called the New Jersey Student Sustainability Coalition.
Okay. Thanks. All right. That would be awesome. All right.
There's another thing I noticed is that, Rezwan, is that it's so important to make it applicable to the people who are playing the game, and I'm sure you're certainly aware of that and including that in the game. But the statistic, New Jersey has the advantage of having a lot of analyses and statistics which show the impact of climate change on different communities, and if that is integrated with the use of the game, then the students would see, hey, listen, I am in a coastal community. My danger is, you know, this percentage of water damage and flooding. So therefore, this part of the game is extremely important to me, and the game in itself is really not a game, as you're saying. It's a reality that will come to their community.
Yeah, I mean, understanding the impacts of inaction is super important. And also understanding the impacts of action. I think that's where, like, people have been, you know, they've been mapping out, I think the last talk was great. It was about like mapping out flood zones, mapping out impacts, but we also need to really map out, it's very important, mapping out the solution impacts.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there was this thing, I'm going to see the injustice footprint. Yeah, because it's not just going to be land use. There's also mining impacts. There's work impacts, the type and quality of work. So the sooner, and in fact, we really need to front load this, because I'm kind of flying blind where I'm being vague about like, there's impacts. And I don't want to be vague. I want to be absolutely clear. This is what the impact, I want to be able to look at each solution. I want to have it clarified by the time we're ready for October. We want each really see the footprint and see the trade-offs between things. See, and then because once you see the footprint, you can also see how to improve each part of it. Like, this is a problem, let's face the problem. We may be able to improve it. We may not be able to improve it. We may be able to improve it, but it's just easier to go with this one. You know, so the sooner everybody is clear, like all these scientists spending all this time focusing on, you know, getting people to understand climate change is real. It's great. You've done a great job. We need now all these people to focus on clarifying those solutions. So it's just so obvious, like, okay, we need this much energy. Here there are 6 top options. Let's negotiate where we're going to put it, and what we can mitigate, and you know. And so, and one fun thing we want students to work on is just also creative commentary on the solutions. So like, you know, the game, The Price is Right?
Oh, yeah.
Where you're supposed to guess the price of a thing. So we want to do The Price is Right Externalities Edition, where you guess the price plus all these other costs and the labor, and then you would pan, instead of the audience going, yay, you pan over to like the people working in the mines, you know, or like ecotourism, all this ecotourism about like the beautiful pristine landscape. It's like, no, let's send the eco-tour group to work in the mines, you know, let's work, you know, let's really see the impacts. And then we can, you know, it's illuminating. And I think young people are actually, the more candid you are with young people, they like it. And it's interesting, just
well,
like
we're getting down to the wire here. It's 12:15. And I don't know if we have time to, did we have any other question that came up, Maddie?
Yep, there's one question in the chat.
oh, should they
Want to
only
put that up? And we'll just take a minute to do you want to?
yeah, so yeah, so only promote renewables. No, for our game, every play is on the table. So you've got nuclear. If you do use fossils, like you really have to clean it. Like you do have to capture. So again, yeah, but everything is on the table. Everything's on the table. We're a no holds barred, all solutions, red state solutions, blue state solutions, wild card solutions, you know, pleasant physics surprise where you suddenly discover something that solves everything. It's like, whatever you can do, can you do it? Can you get it done? It's a great quality of life, and does it solve the problem? So yeah, we're no holds barred.
Rezwan, this is just a totally fascinating game, and I think what you're doing is just very, very important. Could have a great deal of impact, and we're really grateful. We're really grateful that you came to share this fabulous game with us, and we want to hear what's going to happen in October.
All
Great
right.
job. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We could stop the recording, I think.
Yay.
I got it set up. Don't worry. It's going now.
Okay, you ready to go?
We would like to welcome John Malasny, who has been previously